I was born and raised in Monterrey, Mexico, a manufacturing hub for the country and for Latin America, about 2 hours south of the Laredo, Texas border, and I spent most of my career in that area. Growing up, I was one of those kids that are constantly taking things apart to see how they're put together. After graduating with an industrial design degree, I went to work at Mattel Toys for 7 years, the last 3 at corporate in Los Angeles, in engineering and project management positions. After that, I went back to Monterrey to take on a succession of opportunities managing different areas for US, Mexican, Nordic, and Asian managed companies. Eventually, I got the best job in the world as a plant manager a few years ago. So I have been applying Lean for over 20 years and Six Sigma for 10 years or so. During my whole career, I have been involved in product transfers to my plant and, quite painfully, from my plants. I lived through the whole China phenomenon, from the tentative approaches of the 90s and the mystery to the apparently dog-induced dark times that were just ending, to the long overdue reshoring or shoring or whatever shoring that is beginning to correct those mistakes at last. So yeah, I've listened to preachers, I've listened to fools. The whole thing hasn't been pretty, nor particularly smart long-term for our region. Every process you can think of is subject to analysis and can be broken down into simpler parts so it's improved and put back together again. Lean provides the tools to do just that. Then Six Sigma makes sure that we're consistently good at it, over and over and over again. So you apply more Lean tools, you move up the ladder, and the cycle repeats, so it becomes a journey towards excellence. During this rinse and repeat process, technology is critical to gain a competitive edge over those immersed in a how low can you go game. It also creates a strong value proposal where you offer a better product made in a better way, faster and at a reduced total cost. So instead of competing in how much we can screw our customers, our employees, and the environment before they turn on us, we actually become positive agents of change while turning up a handsome profit that gets reinvested in the area. On a more enlightened level, we may argue that technology also pulls the so-called millennials towards making stuff, not just apps, to manufacturing. That reduces the importance of low-skilled jobs that compete with burger flipping or, for the beautiful, as one CEO will say, some clothing stores, and provides jobs paid according to skills of the mind in a knowledge economy that improves life for everybody involved. I know it's a cliche to say that these tools can be applied everywhere and in your daily life, but it's true. Every activity implies a process, and every process can be analyzed and improved using technology to help. You start with yourself, then your supply chain, maybe a bit with your customers. Suddenly, you're actually using those tools to cut waste in your day-to-day life and improving it. One of the first things you learn in Lean in general, and value stream mapping in particular, is that any activity that doesn't result in something that your customer pays for is non-value added. That is, it has some kind of waste inside of it. And Lean is all about killing waste. So there's a lot to say about branding and marketing advantages and first moving and eyeballs and traffic and of course design, and they can all be critical to your product success. But I believe strongly that to truly understand something, you must make it with your own hands. Steve Jobs used to say that design is not about how things look, but how they work. 3D modeling, one of the ways you can make things look a certain way, is a great tool, but in my experience, you cannot know and understand something unless you pull it apart and back together with your hands. Let's look at Apple for a second. Great innovation, superb design, legendary marketing, celebrated leadership. Now, the guys that used to make their stuff, their chips, their screens, their casings, their product itself, are becoming competitors and they're kicking their butt, so they're losing advantages. You gotta wonder how much intimate stuff, how much of Apple's mojo has Samsung taken from them and now is using against them in the marketplace. On a more macro level, maybe getting a little bit political, I think our governments really need to start working together more and coordinating better. A bright future for Canada, the US, and Mexico depends more on the three of us than anybody else. Our money will be better spent locally instead of China, Southeast Asia, or whatever the next low-level cost country is. So after the recession, we come to realize that the deindustrialized or post-industrial or 100% service economy future that many of us were sold on just doesn't provide sufficient career paths for the poor and the non-entrepreneurial to grow into the middle class, to achieve the American dream, so to say, to create paying customers for our own products. In the so-called service economy, the steps to achieve that are just too few and far apart compared to an industrial or a manufacturing environment. So who needs to do this most? Well, manufacturing guys will find other lines of work less than exciting, but that's not the main deal. You can also note that there's only so many assistant manager positions at your local fast food joints, and they really don't pay enough for you to buy the high-tech gadgets that the apps, the other half of the population is supposed to be getting rich on. So in reality, it's a matter of sustainability for all of us as a society. Let me make it a little bit more egotistical. If you're selling a strong value-add proposition, if your business model depends on one of the following as advantages or core beliefs or whatever important part of the business model is, that is speed, reacting quickly to your market, be it for new products or revised iterations. If you have strong intellectual property, if you believe in sustainability for the environment or in fair trade, or maybe that your products should be made by people that can afford them, then you gotta try this. And it's critical for you to apply these tools. On the other hand, if your product is a cheap commodity that you buy in bulk by the container load, and you compete based just on raw price and playing how low can you go with suppliers, workers, customers, the environment, then you don't really need them. Thank you, Dustin, for the opportunity to share these views.